up, we'll have our presentation by Liska Richer and Gloria Sun from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. And they'll be sharing about the food, nutrition, and sustainability initiatives that are currently being implemented at UBC, as well as the key strategies and frameworks guiding the changes across their food environment. So Gloria and Liska have briefly introduced themselves, but I'll give you a bit more of a background into their background. So Gloria is a dietitian who has worked in many different areas of dietetics, from clinical, outpatient, private practice to public health. And she's an advocate for nutrition and well-being, and is passionate about ensuring that university resident environments support a healthy lifestyle. She's far from the food police. I love this line when I was reading your bio. And she loves connecting with students and is passionate about helping them adopt nutritious patterns through various unique ways. Liska Richer is the manager of the SEED Sustainability Program at the University of British Columbia, Vancouver campus, which utilizes the campus as a living laboratory to create impactful student-led research opportunities, as well as interdisciplinary partnerships that advances UBC's sustainability and well-being commitments. Liska co-chairs a range of interdisciplinary collaborations spanning across food systems, biodiversity, and climate issues, and she also teaches leadership in food system sustainability within the Faculty of Land and Food Systems. So I'll now hand over the Zoom stage to both of you. So feel free to pop your slides on and we'll take it from there.
Great, thank you so much. I was just finding the mute button. Thank you for that introduction, and it's our pleasure to be presenting to you all today, sharing a bit about UBC and some of the food, nutrition, and sustainability initiatives that are currently being undertaken on our Vancouver campus. To provide you all with a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today, we'll start with a bit of context about UBC as a whole, and then jump into the UBC food system, and then jump into food system related plans and principles that help guide our decision making on campus. Then we'll be reviewing some specific sustainability, nutrition, and well-being initiatives, some examples of those, end off with some key takeaways, and then we'll have, I believe, around 10 minutes or so at the end for some questions and discussion.
And just to give some context, I always find it's helpful when learning from other peer institutions to learn a bit more about their environment. The University of British Columbia is a large campus. We have about 85,000 people on our campus on a daily basis, a really rapidly growing resident population too, with about 22,000 residents right now. And we're on a big site. You can see a little bit on the background and many of our images here that we're surrounded by trees and by ocean and mountains, and a lot of green on a 1,000-acre site. We also are, I think, quite unique in that we own and operate a lot of our buildings and facilities on our campus here. And we have a big student population, also very diverse. A lot of people from all over the world come to this campus. That really adds to, I think, a really stellar community of learners. And we have a big economic impact on our region here in British Columbia because of our sheer purchasing power. And then when we think about the food system here at UBC, just to give you a bit of a snapshot, we have two main food providers, and the largest, and the sheer largest for sure, is UBC Food Services, which Gloria is part of. We also have a student-run organization, and we have many third-party food vendors on our campus that's growing quite rapidly. We're also quite privileged and have a wonderful 24-hectare campus farm that is a center for research, learning, as well as food production. And we have many food gardens on our campus. I didn't get an updated number here, but I think there's probably about 25 or so that are on rooftops or on the ground. And then we also have an in-vessel composting facility and a lot of different kind of policies and plans that are related to food systems.
Great. As Liska mentioned, I work very closely with UBC Food Services in particular. And to provide some context about it, it is self-funded and self-operated. We have more than 4 million customers per year, and we spend more than 15 million on total food, which is up by 45% from last year. We have about 24 retail locations, and we're hoping to expand that number even more so in the coming years. And we also have 3 residence dining hall locations. Last year, we launched for the very first time all access dining, which I will be talking a bit about later. We also have 1 full service restaurant.
And I manage the Seed Sustainability Program, and we're part of the planning unit on our campus. So we sit on the operational side of the university, and our role is really quite cross-cutting, and it's around supporting the university's sustainability and well-being commitments from climate, biodiversity, circular economies, food systems, well-being, inclusion, and a lot more through leveraging the campus as a living laboratory. And our model is about creating partnerships between students, the practitioners or staff and community across our campus here, and faculty to help work on applied research as well as other collaborations that might be a committee or a group or something else that might look differently to help advance these commitments here. We have about 100 projects every year that span these different areas. So we do a lot of work around food systems, and Gloria and the food services team is a big partner that we help support advancing their various areas in. And thinking about the university's food systems related plans and principles, we have quite a few, although we don't have an overarching food strategy or plan, which I heard a few of you mention on the introduction. So love to hear more about that. But to give you some examples of a few, such as in the next slide, we have a well-being strategic framework on our campus. And this one here has 2 kind of key areas pertaining really directly to food systems. So one's around food security prevalence and around reducing food insecurity or promoting food security. And we have another area around healthy beverage consumption. And there's links in all of these slides for more information. I'm happy to speak more in the Q&A or question and answer period as well. We have a climate action plan, which is probably the plan that is most front and center for me and my team's work in the last few years. There's 7 food actions as part of this plan that are very ambitious, and we have a target for emissions reductions, as you can see here on the slide, to meet by 2030. There are 7 actions I mentioned that span food system areas. I put 5 here on this slide here. I won't read them all out, but just share a few kind of key components of them. The first one's about developing, like, what are we talking about when we talk about climate-friendly food systems? So defining that, developing a label as well as a toolkit about how to promote sustainable dietary choices, developing an ambitious procurement strategy about how to not only reduce emissions, but also advance different mitigation measures, and then address food waste as well as recovery, and then working with various suppliers to help advance our climate action goals. We also have a zero waste action plan 2030 towards a circular economy. We've had a few different iterations of this plan, and this one was approved last year in April. And it has a few objectives around waste reduction, recovery, a lot of work around promoting reusable cultures, and developing different waste metrics here on our campus. We have a supporting foodware strategy that focuses a lot on promoting or reducing single use and promoting reuse with different kind of fee structures that's being rolled out at different stages across our campus. And we have most recently in December a new update to our Student Society Sustainability Plan. And this one was just approved in December. And it has 10 goals and 33 actions related to food systems. So quite a bit, a very, very ambitious plan that spanned a lot of different areas from food security, food waste to climate and food justice.
And then we also have a specific related guideline for UBC Food Services called the Food Vision and Values. And it consists of 16 guiding principles that really help to shape our business and guide the decisions that we make. Some of which are on the screen, some really key values of being wholesome, sustainable, local, diverse. It really, all the values and definitions really support everything we do, from nutrition and well-being to sustainability, food safety, as well as professional development. So now Liska is going to start us off with some sustainability initiatives, and then I'll dive into some nutrition and well-being right afterwards.
When we think about food procurement at UBC, one of the key things that first comes to my mind was about 20 years ago through our first UBC farm purchasing agreement with one of our food providers on campus that really ended up scaling out to many, many other items across various food categories, as well as some food providers. And another key area was around fair trade. The university became a designated fair trade campus, which is a designation among different campuses in Canada and the US. I'm not too sure what this looks like more internationally around designation on campuses, but around purchasing different beverages as well as food products that are fair trade. So those are a couple examples, but I'll hand it over to Gloria to go into a little bit more detail with what they're doing.
Yes, at UBC Food Services, food procurement has evolved quite a bit. We really focus on, we've really seen really a reduction in red meat and processed foods. And something big is that we aim to be 55% plant-based, and even more so in future years to meet our Climate Action Plan 2030 goals. We also offer mostly whole grain options within our different, especially our dining halls. And in 2019, we committed to only serving ocean-wise sustainable seafood. And we also encourage drinking water from scratch. We have a great tap water campaign on campus. Zero waste is also very key within UBC Food Services. Making recipes from scratch, as well as prioritizing local suppliers, is also near and dear to our hearts. We're currently higher than the provincial 30% targets, and we're currently at 45% in terms of local food procurement at UBC Food Services.
I mentioned earlier some of the work around our climate action plan, and one of the first actions was defining what we're talking about around a climate-friendly food system. We came up with a really, I think, ambitious community-based definition that took a couple years to develop with a lot of different input from students on the campus, as well as faculty and staff, and also other institutions, and getting their input. And we ended up coming up with the definition, as you can see in the text on the right part of the slide. But in the middle, as we have a more of a simplified infographic here, that this definition spans 3 areas that have different sets of attributes as well as supporting actions. The first one at the top is around reducing our food greenhouse gas emissions. So things like reducing animal product, in particular consumption and procurement. And then the second area on the blue leaf here is around promoting biodiversity as well as resilient and regenerative food systems. And the third one is around supporting just, sovereign and resilient communities. The other component of this, to get into more detail, is around developing a food procurement strategy to help operationalize this definition and these attributes here. So we've come up with a draft procurement plan in coordination with our food suppliers or food providers on our campus here. Again, that span these three areas or attributes. A key area are prioritizing our actions right now on setting different targets around reducing ruminant meat product consumption through purchasing, as well as through procurement or through individual choices on our campus. And other areas that we're working on is around food waste packaging and reduction. And then we're also focusing on trying to find ways where we can promote biodiversity and at the same time promote food justice, fairness, and reduce emissions. So no easy task, but we're trying to find synergies across these different actions to create some efficiencies, to make it less, I think, overwhelming, but also find some areas that are quite attainable to work on and to get us where we need to go in this current time that we're in around biodiversity loss and climate change. And then I'll end here with around the climate work that we've developed a food label. The pilot 4 on the bottom is our current label. So we've spent years testing an evidence-based label working with psychology students, a prof, as well as students and from other disciplines across the campus on a really, I think, ambitious label to help promote climate-friendly choices. So there's been a number of surveys and analytics with which ones have actually led to increases or decreases in climate-friendly food purchases. And all of this has a back-end system where it's been integrated with our food services platform, which we're called NutriSlice, where they do different types of assessments for a dietary perspective and nutritional analysis on their food products. And we've had over 1,000 recipes analyzed for nitrogen, or we started with emissions, and then we expanded to nitrogen, and then water use based on the cool food calculator. So a really robust system where it's connected in with the menu items. And then in terms of zero waste and circularity initiatives, there's quite a few. I think as we heard from a few folks in the introductions, the pandemic really put some work on pause, and that was the same for us as well, with a lot of pulling back on some of the initiatives that we were making quite a big headway, particularly around reuse culture. We have a mug share program where people can use, there's a place where you can wash our different mugs and kind of bring them back. We have a 3-bin sorting stations for quite some time to help promote waste reduction and reduce contamination, and a various kind of campaigns around choosing to reuse and describing about the importance of composting in particular.
Great. So now we're going to jump into some nutrition and well-being initiatives within UBC Food Services, but also student housing and community services as a whole, which actually houses UBC Food Services. So we'll be sharing 3 main pillars. The first pillar is nutrition and well-being programming. And so we have set monthly themes and various different events, as well as nutrition booths and articles that surround these themes. Some of the main focus right now is on plant-based eating education, even food security focused events coming up. And another huge pillar that I wanted to share about was nutrition analysis. And so a lot of that is analyzing our menus to see how can we be more accommodating to our student population? How can we be more sustainable? How can we be more culturally appropriate, traditionally appropriate, and just offer good food for our population and the staff training around that? And then nutrition communications is also very key. Liska mentioned NutriSlice. That is our online menu being platform for our various residence dining hall locations, as well as some of our retail units where students can filter based off of various different menu icons, which we have up on the screen. For example, vegetarian, vegan, made without gluten, ocean-wise, or halal protein, and also filter based off of their allergies and intolerances and whatnot. So that's a really huge part of UBC Food Services, and particularly my role as well. To touch a bit more on all access dining, which I mentioned we launched last year, within our 3 residence dining halls. It's essentially an all-you-care-to-eat environment where students can come in as many times as they would like and eat as much as they would like or as little as they like, as long as they're on the first-year dining meal plan. And students have a wide variety of options to choose from, and this model allows students to choose essentially based off of preference rather than price. And because of that, we've also been seeing an increased number of people choosing more fruits and veggies, which is great. We've also been seeing an increase in the number of visits. It's been up by 50% since last year. On average, we get about 10,000 visits per day across the 3 dining halls on weekdays and a bit less on the weekends. So we do have quite a bit of traffic coming in and selecting a wide variety of options. And something else we've been seeing too is that all access dining really promotes an increased sense of community. We also have more opportunity for education, local spotlights, for example, highlighting local suppliers, and various different projects that we may be doing. And another great thing about all access dining is that it has the ability for us to make changes quite quickly and thus also see impact quite quickly as well. One other important note that I wanted to mention is that not just at UBC Food Services, but as a whole, UBC is very much grounded in science. Within the food services realm, we have some guiding documents to help to inform our values. We have 3 examples up on the screen. One really huge one is the Canada's Food Guide, which is on the bottom right, as well as the Planetary Health Plate. Those 2 are quite similar. They're both plates that symbolize a meal that focuses very much on plant-based options and whole foods. And then we also have the menus of change up on the screen on the top right, which is essentially various different principles of healthy and sustainable menus that we really aim to follow as well within our menu engineering guidelines. Alrighty, so we've made it all the way to key takeaways. Yeah, we wanted to share some key takeaways. One really huge one at UBC, but also as a global community as well, is plant-based really is the future. In order to meet our climate action goals or the climate action plan specifically at UBC in 2030, we recognize one really big thing or step that we can take is continuing to become more and more plant-based and providing more menu offerings towards that, as well as the education needed to actually inspire change. Food procurement needs to be thought about not only from the lens of just people, but also our planet, as well as individual and systemic action is very much key to inspire change within the UBC community as a whole, and also even impacting our direct community, and even from a global level as well.
And in terms of action, I think we found that it's really important not to put all the onus in creating change on individuals, that there's a responsibility and or indeed a role for institutions to be contributing to and leading part of this broader changes that are needed in our systems. So that can be looked at as from our procurement in terms of making good decisions that support people and planet when we're thinking about our food procurement, and providing enough information for people to be able to make informed decisions when they get to the counter or when they go and purchase their groceries and go home. And moreover, there's lots of, I think, different examples that could be brought in here. So it's really combining both of those, and not only from working on them from the back end, but also thinking about how we communicate initiatives. So that climate food label, the onus is not all on the person making the purchase here. It's showcasing, I think, the work that's happening among the food providers and growers and many others involved in the food system, what they're doing to make change there. I think community-based action approaches is probably, I think, the most critical thing that comes to my mind that's been a key learning and success in our work, is ensuring that the communities that are affected by these work by the work that we're doing are brought in at an early stage and are part of the co-creation of those projects, the identification of the issues, as well as the opportunities to create meaningful change. I think leveraging as institutions of higher learning that we're working with the many, many minds and disciplines with so many different specializations, as well as lived experiences across our campus, and bringing them on board as part of the decision making and influencing everything from our energy and water to waste to food systems. And then it really helps to have strong, I think, policy and plan sightlines to help give endorsement to the work. And it really helps when recruiting and bringing different people on board, these different initiatives, to say that the university is committed to, for example, climate action, and then to be able to speak to a supporting plan that might also come with funding as well. And then incremental radicalism is a term that I often refer to, I think, a lot of our work, because it takes time, and often just starting small, whether that first farm purchase or doing that first assessment of food insecurity on our campus, and scaling it out from there, those learnings to different areas, and scaling it, I guess, in the university as well as out. Those learnings have been really, really helpful. And that concludes our formal presentation. Today we've shared lots of resources on these slides, and there's others that we can share as well if there's interest.
Thank you very much.